This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry. Hey, Post Shifters, it is Friday, which means it's another episode of Post Shift Podcast with your host. I am Shawn Soole. Today is sort of a BC Spirits, my little passion project, and a Post Shift mashup like last week with James from Sons Vancouver. This time is with Gord and Miriam from Odd Society, which is a fantastic little distillery and a really quickly growing and gentrifying area in Vancouver. But they do some fantastic products. I'm a big supporter of theirs. And so I got to sit down with them during BC Distilled, and I banged out a little podcast with that, just talking about where the name came from and the spirits that they make and why they make those certain spirits. They make a fantastic creme de cassis. If you haven't watched a couple of episodes of the BC Spirits reviews. But I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for all the support you've given me. I'm completely and utterly grateful for everything that I'm getting right now. But thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. I'm going off to Portugal, so there'll be a good chunk of people who will be getting interviewed for the podcast in Lisbon for the Lisbon Bar Show, include Nicola Risky. So I'm looking forward to that. But thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Bye.
Well, you do.
I do 3 podcasts a week, 2 videos a week.
Wow. I listened to the one with Robin. I quite liked.
Yeah, and the thing is, I've known Robin for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And he was telling me something like, seriously, dude? He's like, oh, yeah. It's like,
he's such a character, huh?
He really is. I think he's one of the most underrated bartenders in Vancouver, to be honest with you. Like, he's just always super subdued, super laid back, but always epic at his job.
Yes.
So, and he just won Karate Kid too.
He just won Karate Kid,
that's
which
super
is
cool. Yeah, because you know,
he's an old school dude. And
yeah.
Like all the youngsters come out,
but he won it slowly.
Yeah.
Like what Chad was telling us, because Gord and I went to see Karate Kid, but I didn't see Robin. I missed that part. But Chad was there, and Chad said he was already losing on speed. So we said, okay, I'll get the points on technical and taste.
Yeah.
So he just took his time.
Awesome. Okay, so I've already started recording now. I can edit down. I'm super raw about it because at the end of the day, it's like a filmmaker came out to me at the tasting, and he's like, oh, well, people are like giving me their marketing spiel. I'm like, you just got to get to know people. Once you get to know people, you hear about it. He's like, did anyone struggle to get to open a store? Like, this whole freaking room did, man.
Yes.
The next room, everybody struggles to open a distillery.
Yes.
Like, and I talked to James about it this morning a lot. About
James Lester?
Yeah. About the mystique of opening a distillery. Mm-hmm. So, like, everybody thinks it's awesome to open a distillery. Just open a restaurant. Like, opening a restaurant is just as hard.
Same thing.
Yeah. So, how about you introduce yourself first? I usually start with that.
Okay.
Okay, my name's Gordon. Yes, I'm the founder, distiller with Miriam of Odd Society.
And I'm Miriam Carp, and Gordon and I jointly operate the distillery. And Chad is trying to ask me something.
Jesus, Chad.
Do we have passes there?
You get passes there.
Yeah, and you have to show them. You have to show them you're serving it right before they give it to you.
Yeah, I don't have any answers.
Okay, have fun, Chad. That's okay.
You're going to be in the recording now, Chad. So how long's Odd Society been open for?
So we opened our doors Halloween 2013.
So you're one of the older guys.
Yeah, we're kind of, one of the older ones. I mean, definitely not as, we haven't been around as long as Okanagan Spirits and Maple, and Maple Leaf and Marydale.
Victoria Spirits.
Victoria, exactly.
We're one of the first of the new wave, kind of. That's what we say.
That's a good way to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to James about this. I contemplated doing an infograph of like when everybody opened, but the liquor board doesn't tell you when everybody opened.
Oh,
it just tells who's got licenses.
So you have to ask everyone.
And that's like herding cats. I'm completely understandable. Like, not everybody has marketing teams, and like most of them don't have Instagram. Like a lot of stuff. Right. So it was like, okay, so I'm going to ask you when you opened, so I can do a massive infograph. And that didn't work out the way it should have.
But you know what it was? Like there were Charles opened first, then we opened, then Liberty.
Long Table.
Liberty, and then Yaletown. Yeah. So we all opened 2013.
Wow.
And then there was nothing for a long time. First of all, it's basically, honestly, a big part of it was just zoning.
Really?
Vancouver only has like 3 areas where you could, without rezoning, potentially just set up, and so we had a couple other places that fell through, and then we saw this place, we just ended up here.
And is the zoning changed now?
Not that I know of. I don't think they've opened it up, although...
It's really hard to open a distillery in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And in quite a few other municipalities, but we know for sure from our own experience in the other distilleries, it's incredibly difficult here.
Yeah.
From a city point of view, like, I think everything's just like excise and the LDB.
Yeah.
There's just time, but it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
But
Again, the foot in the door in the actual municipality you want to exist in. Because, like, really, like 2013, like, I was driving down, like, because it's my first time here, which is horribly embarrassing most of the time when I say that. But when I was driving down, I'm like, this is a little interesting part of town. You should go over Hastings, and obviously Hastings has got the reputation.
Yes.
2013, it would have been.
It was
still a rough part of town.
It was still pretty rough. There was the only person that was here, or the only two actually, was Storm Brewing, and Cole Harbour was here already.
Wow.
So we actually looked to rent the space that Parallel 49's in now, and we decided it would. And then shortly after they rented it, but it took us a while. They opened before we did. But
and
so there was only Storm and there was only Cole Harbour.
And when we were deciding actually about this space, our real estate agent said, there's a brewery that's just opening up a few blocks away. And he took us to Parallel 49, and we met some of the owners, and there was a big hole in the ground, and that's it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then Powell Street Craft Brewery, they opened shortly before us in the old, where Domes used to be.
Yeah, okay.
It's before Domes.
Yeah.
And then they moved over slightly west of us now.
Later.
Yeah.
So you really, like, you got a space that wasn't like, for the lounge that's in the front right now, wasn't a great space to be putting a high-end cocktail lounge with a craft distillery attached to it.
Yeah, it was kind of like, the thing was, we started all this, or we started looking for space, opening our distillery before there were any craft rules.
Yeah.
And so I always say it's serendipity. We just got really lucky. But also, like, halfway through, the city changed their rules. So halfway through, we resubmitted our plans because our original lounge was going to be half the size.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the city said, okay, we're allowing, our architect phoned us one day and said that they're allowing double the size. So we said, okay.
And but it's still a small little lounge.
It's still small, but it took an extra 6 months because we had to, resubmit our plans. But
so what made you keep going?
Yeah,
Gordon is very tenacious. He's much more patient than I am. I'm and Gordon just, he's like, we're like the turtle and the hare. He just slowly, works through the bureaucracy. And you have to be very tenacious to deal with the bureaucracy.
Well, because I think a lot of people think that, as I was saying before, I think a lot of people think they're just going to get a distillery license. And I think it was the boom of Oregon and Washington that sort of changed that. Like, everybody's like $100 for a license, and I'm like, well, yeah, you get a distillery license for $100, but then you've got to open a distillery.
Yes,
that costs a lot of money. And I think a lot of people go, it's easy to get a distillery license. I'm like, yeah, it's you can get a distillery license.
Yeah.
But opening a distillery is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, I think we were just a bit naive. That's the truth. Like, we just didn't know what we were getting into, or just knowing what it would be. So we get a lot of people come and say, for a while we were getting people for sure every couple of months saying, we want to open a distillery.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, how do you tell people, well, if you had to do it all over again, you might not, given the climate and everything, you might not do it. But once you're in it,
you're
just, I really like it, what we're doing. I think I would. Yeah.
But we've had a lot of support, I have to say. When we opened up our bar, our staff basically helped us along. Very, we've had amazing staff, and you've met, some of the folks that have worked with us. and the community of people, our customers, hugely supportive. I mean, big time. And then even we're sort of token islanders, even like the island, very supportive of their local distilleries, have been fabulous in terms of odd society support, and we've been really lucky that way. And so a lot of it has been, like Gord says, serendipitous, because things have fallen into place. We got, in terms of the craft rules, we just got, we might have not have set our place up to comply with those craft rules.
Yes.
And the craft rules.
Well, so when we started, our original business plan was to make rum, because we were like, we could spit and hit Roger's Sugar.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, they've been around 120 years, just makes sense, Roger. And then we had even teamed up with the Tiki Room at the Waldorf. Yeah. We actually had labels already made that said Waldorf Rum.
Oh, wow.
And part of it was we were going to import rum from Flor de Caña. They had sent us samples. The staff there had tried it and loved what they were doing, a special blend for us. We were going to age it here. So it was going to be, born in the Caribbean or born there and then aged here. And then we have this great rum. And then all of a sudden the rules changed, and we looked at the rules and said, it just doesn't, we have to change everything that we...
Now I'm excited about a rum.
Yeah, I know. It's true. Like, we'd love to do
a lot of
rum.
people don't understand is, like, I think if you're in the craft world and you're in that little bubble, like, we all have seen the evolution of everything. But I think a lot of people don't understand is, like, really, like, with the rule changes, it's only been 5 years tops.
Yeah.
That since the rules changed, like 5 years from growth from like 25 distilleries, or maybe not even that at that time, to we're going to have 100 by the end of the year.
Yes.
Like 100 by the end of the year is madness.
Yeah.
And everywhere. Like Bowen Island's opening up, and like literally anywhere you can get licensing for a distillery, there's a distillery now.
Yeah.
So why the name Odd Society?
Yeah, so we worked with this amazing design group called Cause and Effect, and then at the beginning they were just trying to find out who we were, talking to us.
I should interject though. The Cause and Effect we continue to work with. They've never worked with a label of any sort.
Oh.
They're more of a design, a creative firm that works with a lot of social causes.
Okay.
And so we connected with them through a common friend, and we almost feel like we made the right choice, because some of the
No, but they sold it to us that way. They said that we've never done a label, so we're going to come at this thing like completely originally, and like we're just going to.
And it's true though, right?
It's true. Like so we're going to come at it from a completely new angle, and we bought it, and so.
And we've been
but it was
working with them since.
The idea was kind of like one of the ideas we had. We were going to be like a club, of like-minded spirit lovers. So we're a club, okay. And then it was so we're like a society. And then it was just like, okay, what kind of society? And then it turned into the Odd Society.
Wow.
And,
that's a wicked origin story.
Yes. And we wanted to make sure when people come here, they are really comfortable.
Yeah.
And just the other day, some people were sitting and they talked to us, and what did they say? They said this place is not...
it's not uppity.
It's
I don't
not
know if
uppity,
I go up I go downtown and the cocktails are, this and that.
Yeah.
And they said, but here I like coming because it's not uppity and I get great cocktails.
and I think mission accomplished, because that's, what we're about. We want people to, we offer tours, and we're trying to do as many educational events that we can. We just don't have the bandwidth sometimes. But that's really what we're trying to do, is make people feel connected and to learn with us and to be part of the community.
And now you've got a substantial portfolio of spirits. What was the first one? Was it Wallflower or was it East End?
The first one was the vodka, East End vodka. Yeah. And then it was Cassis, right?
Creme de Cassis.
Yeah.
Creme de Cassis came before the gin.
It did, because Honestly, I always use that word serendipity. It's like, if you're a distiller, you want this to happen to you. So our neighbor is Hervé Martin.
Yeah.
He's a French chef, worked in Michelin restaurants. Anyway, he said, we knew him really well. So he says, you open a distillery? Well, you have to make creme de cassis. And he came and he said, this is how you make it. So he just showed up and said, this is how French cassis is made. Do it.
Wow.
And so he and so, just knowing now, like when you're developing a new spirit, how much time, how much experimentation, how much tasting that takes. I mean, that was just a gift. What it was.
Wow. I didn't know the creme de cassis came after the vodka.
And the funny thing, I like to tell this story because it's really funny. Like when Hervé came and said how you do it. So, you press it, you do all the stuff. You cook it. We cook it. We actually there's a cooking element to it, and then it comes time to filter it. So he says, "This is how you filter it," and he whips out a bag of women's pantyhose, and he puts them over a bucket, and then he dumps it in, and then he pulls up the pantyhose, and then that's done. The filter, and so our first commercial batch was done that way, but then we kind of go, okay, we got to get a little more serious.
That's doing it a little expensive.
Yeah. So we got a filter set up, but Hervé still makes it that way in his restaurant with women's pantyhose.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we've tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah. And so then the wallflower came out after that?
Yeah. The wallflower, I'm assuming most gins, takes a lot of experimentation because you're measuring the botanicals, you're looking at proportions, and sometimes things are overpowering. And because we went with a floral gin, it was quite a bit of experimentation. We used a little still at the beginning.
It's right there.
Oh wow,
that's the one. We probably did like 80 little runs on that, like trying different things. The problem was, you think, okay, I think that's 2 liters. We would buy like Smirnoff vodka as our base spirit, and then throw it. And the cool thing was, there's a layer in there, so it's like having a gin basket. Yeah. The botanicals don't have to be boiled in. But we thought, okay, we figured it out here. We just times that by 100, and there it is. But no, so it took us about 7 batches, even after that, of big batches. But those became, and I hesitate to say it, our first barrel-aged gins. Yeah. Because we just couldn't bring ourselves to dump it down the drain. So, okay, what do we do with it? We threw it in the barrel. So.
Yeah, because I think I mentioned in the episode that I did about barrel-aged gins, like you guys were literally one of the OGs that did barrel-aged gin. Like I know Victoria Spirits did their barrel-aged gin, but like I don't think anybody did a barrel-aged gin until you guys.
Yeah, I don't.
Victoria Spirits for sure. Yeah. I think Long Table might have done it at the same time as us as possible. I remember trying the Long Table barrel-aged gin.
Yeah.
So that was a big tasting. 14 barrel-aged gins in one sitting.
Yes.
Nobody should do that. I advise against that for anybody's sanity.
Part A and Part B.
Yeah, I contemplate doing that.
Wow.
So what's you've done the bittersweet vermouth? That was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
The mongrel, I think, came after the gin.
The mongrel, yeah.
Mongrel, that was just a game. Like
is the mongrel still in rotation? Like you're still doing a substantial amount of mongrel?
Well, the thing is, the mongrel is really we would like to, because we're moved on to our real rye. Yeah. We would like to use our resources to make the rye. However, our bartenders love using the mongrel, and it's in actually a few drinks, around town. Yeah. And we still have people in stores that buy it. So, but at some point, we're thinking, now is not the point.
Yeah. But we'll phase it out. Yeah. But it's still it's slow but sure. It's got its customers, and so once in a while we do a run of the mongrel. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
So it's always that people can always order it. We always keep a small stock. Yeah.
But they love using it here.
It's just crazy that you're following for a white whiskey.
Yes.
Yes. I know, it's hard to believe it.
Well, so when you did the bittersweet, what was the thinking? Because I don't think there was too many vermouths in BC. I think you were the first BC.
I think we were the first in Canada almost. Yeah, we couldn't even find one in. There's probably an obscure one that we haven't heard of. So that was born out of the nutty BC rules. It was because they allowed lounges at the time. Everything you served up front had to be made in the back. So, the bartender said, well, how can you have a bar without vermouth? And, you want to work with vermouth. So he said, okay, let's make a vermouth. And then just getting into, now, I don't have time. I just love vermouth. I just think it got so crazy that Mia and I, there was a conference in Scotland. So I went to the distilling conference, and then Mia did some traveling, but then we went to Spain and visited vermouth makers all over Spain with the intention of, maybe bring it over. Like we had these wild ideas of maybe bottling it or something. Anyway, so we ended up, what happened was a friend, knowing that I liked vermouth, gave me an old book about alcohols. It's a French book, but it's about manufacturing alcohols from turn of the century. And it actually had 5 or 6 vermouth recipes.
Oh, wow.
With all the ingredients listed and how you do it. So we started with that. And then we just started adding more local stuff. And it went, our goal was originally to reach kind of like a red, heavy, rich, sweet vermouth. But we just kind of got halfway there and we said, oh, this is it. We're going to stop.
We're happy now.
Yeah. Even though the intention was someday to do another vermouth, but that's on the back burner. But so that's how it came about. Really, is we had to make one, and then we just started looking around at how to do that.
Yeah, I remember why that's. I remember that story now that coming about because I remember BC distilleries opening lounges, and then you're like, you can't use anything else except for what you make. It's like, okay, so how many shrubs can I make, and how many syrups can I make?
Exactly.
How much stuff can I make with soda?
And if you're only making vodka, then how many drinks can I make? So that, I think that was a bit of a push to make more things. So we were actually, again, it was really lucky, but we had the cassis, which is fairly versatile. Yeah. So when we started out, we had the vodka and the cassis.
Yeah, the cassis was amazing.
It was really helpful because it was so different. It allowed you to play with things. And
I remember Kylie, she created so many syrups. It was nuts. It would take her hours to do prep because, she had to come up with great cocktails without using, outside products.
Yeah. So this year, was it this year or last year? Last year, you released the 2 new whiskies, Commodore and Prospector.
Yes.
Did you expect the response that you got? On the record, I think they're epic.
Thank you.
I think they're fantastic. They're not, they're Canadian whiskey and it's raw firm. It's the closest sort of Canadian style whiskey comparable to that rye spices of Lot 40 and those sort of numbers. It's not over caramelized. It's not anything added to it. It's just really rye forward. It's a really good expression of Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
we've had a fabulous response from the bartending community for the Prospector Rye. The single malt, from day one, the consumer has been really supportive. We haven't had big releases of the single malt, really small batches, but we have lineups for it. And again, people and our cask program has we sell that out in a very short period of time. And that for me, I just get emotional thinking about the cask program because people blindly didn't even know us, knew nothing about what we did. The first year they bought casks. Now people have tried our products and they're in. But those first couple of years, we had nothing to even give them as samples, and people went and bought these whiskeys.
Yeah.
And so the single malt has been great in terms of the general reception. We wish we had more. The Prospector Rye, like I mentioned, it's really, really been well received within the community. However, it's interesting because the consumer wants single malt.
Yeah.
So we almost feel like this is our new mission.
Yeah.
It's we get excited about the Prospector. We've got great cocktails with the Prospector that I hope you get to try. And so we almost feel like this is exciting. We're gonna.
I kind of think, this is my thing, is that rye is a bit not well represented. It was sort of the poor cousin to single malt, and people you have rye and Coke. You never drink it straight.
Yeah.
So I think there's room to treat rye more like a single malt and have expressions like 5-year-olds, or we're barreling some now with French oak heads, and you know what I mean. Like, I think there's so much that hasn't been tried with rye that I think will do amazing. Like, I just get excited about French oak and rye. I just think there might be a miracle there, waiting to happen.
So what's the next big thing? What's the next release? What are you working on? What's in the back of your head?
So we've started this wacky thing. So it's already underway.
It's only wacky if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. So, but we're committed. We're too far gone. So I have to say, and I know sometimes I hesitate, but we've done this wacky thing where we wanted to do expressions like peated malts, smoked malts, things like that.
Oh, I heard about this from Carmen.
Yeah. So we couldn't use them because they're not available in British Columbia. So what we did, and you're looking at this still right now, and there's the gin basket. So one day we were looking at that and said, well, why don't we use heavily peated Scottish malt like we use lemons? So that's what we do now, is when we're doing a peated malt, is that we fill the gin basket with 1 bag of heavily peated Scottish malt, run the vapors through it, and once the run's done, we throw away the malt. So then we haven't used Scottish malt to make alcohol. And it's been beyond crazy because we don't have to clean our entire equipment.
Yeah.
We're using about 1/10 of the peated malt that you would have to, and it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And you can try it, but we think the flavors are phenomenal because it even pulls out more than peat. It pulls out like a rich graininess that's really remarkable. So now we've like a couple of weeks ago we did a bunch of big barrels of peated, but we just did a German Rauch malt, which is traditionally beechwood smoked malt.
Okay.
So now we're going to have a beechwood smoked whiskey. I just got some ordered maplewood smoked. We smoked our own malt actually, BC malt smoked, but we did it the same way. So we have maple smoked. And then we want to start doing some super local stuff that's never... we're picking up some firewood of arbutus wood from Main Island, and we're going to re-smoke some malt with arbutus wood. So we're going to have an arbutus smoked malt maple whiskey. So we're going to have we call it our smoked malt series that's already started. And we just think it's just such an amazing...
Is anyone else doing it that style, like that sort of way? Because it just...
No one's ever done it because no one ever had to. It's kind of like no one ever made vermouth because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
They could just buy it. And so no one's ever done that.
So basically what you're saying is you've been sitting around resting on your laurels, just riding the wave of popularity, not thinking about anything new.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that gets us super excited. And we try this stuff and go, man, that's just so fun and delicious. And yeah,
that's why you do it again.
And that's why I do it again. But I get really excited, like having super local stuff. Like we've thought about getting arbutus or even barrels, right? Or Gariana oak. But there's a place in Oregon that makes them, but they're like $1,000 a barrel if you could get one.
Yeah.
So this way I can get, a bag of, smoked malt that I smoked myself with arbutus wood from my friend on Main Island. And I've heard it's like mesquite. I've heard it's supposed to be this amazing wood.
Are
so
the
I'm so
Gary oak
excited.
barrels expensive because they're like Japanese oak? They're never like straight. They're always like, there's no straight edges to them.
I'm actually not sure. I know it's part of it is scarcity. Like there's just no one's done it, and I know that Westlands have sort of cornered the market. They have a Gariana oak, and so the one Cooperage they sell most of it to Westlands. I think it's just hard to get the wood. Yeah.
Well, that's a big future plan. I wasn't expecting that answer.
Yeah, sorry. But that smoked stuff's underway. We've done maplewood, we've done beechwood.
Wow.
And
just a barrel of each ish.
We've done about 2 big barrels of each.
Okay, so this is a substantial release if,
Yeah,
if it all works
it'd
out.
be a proper
It's a nice
release. Yeah.
We're also trying to look at getting an additional warehouse. Currently, we have a space at one of the breweries out in Abbotsford, and we've been using their space, but we're outgrowing that space, and so we are looking at finding a warehouse so we're going to be expanding that way. We're in Alberta and love being in Alberta. It's great to work in Alberta, and we actually have our gin in Quebec, which is kind of fun.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll start expanding our whiskies out west. And funny enough, there's a gentleman who's in town, and he's a young guy who spent some time working in BC, and he's going to be looking at trying to import some products from various BC distilleries to France.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of fun. So we are, I guess that's kind of my thing. Gordon likes to make the stuff, and
you like to figure out how to get rid of it.
Yeah, I get rid of it.
So I have another wacky story. And this just started too, is we advertised for a delivery driver, and we didn't get a lot of resumes. We got a resume, and Miriam and I kind of looked at it and said, no way, like what's going on? We called the fellow in, and we said to him, why would you want to work here? I mean, given your credentials.
A PhD in chemistry.
It turns out he has a
UBC.
PhD in chemistry from UBC. He just graduated. And his answer was, well, I grew up on a farm in Alberta. I'm used to working hard. I went to school. I don't really like academia, but I was good at chemistry, and they kept giving me money. And I love whiskey. And I'd like to work part-time here. So long story short, he's been delivering for us for over a year. But we just got federal funding to do really high-level whiskey research.
Oh, wow.
So we've teamed up with, through all his connections, he did everything himself. We just have we have a bunch of basic questions that we want answered. But we're teamed up with the University of Windsor. We're setting up a lab to do the analysis of our whiskey. And then the old Harriet Watt in Scotland is going to do the sensory analysis.
Wow.
So we have these two, and Harriet Watt's been amazing because it's just, I emailed some old professors that I went when I was there, and they're thrilled, they're happy to do it. And so then we have some credibility, but we have some serious questions that we want answered, and we're going to be able to do that. So we have 3-year funding from the federal government.
Awesome.
So we'll be the only distillery in Canada that's doing high-level whiskey research. So that started April 1st.
Oh, wow.
That's exciting. And
so
new.
technically, Fraser now works for the University of Windsor, although he still does our deliveries.
That's fantastic. It's always just look at resumes and figure out what you want to do, who the people actually are.
And we thought, serious, okay, we'll hire you because we needed someone desperately.
Last for two
weeks,
months.
seriously. Yeah, I thought, honestly, he's going to be here for a month or two, and we'll look again. But in the meantime, let's just go for it.
So what's the most exciting thing about BC Spirits do you see in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think for me, it's about, there's going to be, I was at BC Distill today, and there's delicious whiskeys all around, and I think there's going to be a lot of really great whiskeys, and I'm about whiskey, and there's all kinds of cool spirits too. Arbutus was doing the forest something.
Yes, they have a really nice lineup. Yeah.
And the birch.
Mike just squirrels himself away and just bangs out a whole bunch of stuff.
Gordon went to school with him.
Mike and I were classmates at Harriet Watt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's so bizarre.
We had parties, and Mike used to come to them in Edinburgh.
He's a super sweet guy, and then he just bangs out a million products.
Yeah. So that's
I think just in general, I think it's headed towards interesting gins, because you've got all those these incredible potential with botanicals and I think whiskey. I think you're right. I think the whole range is possible. Lots of liqueurs.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to see people focusing on their regions, which is what they're doing, and then just working from there. The other thing, again, from a point of view of getting rid of the stuff, I think what's happening is now more and more bartenders are becoming open to.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. Well, it's been a slog because we've had champions from day one.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. But there are. It's been a bit of a tough sell. It's really hard to compete with the big brands that offer trips to Cuba and Paris and money and whatever, a barbecue. I don't know what else.
Yeah, and that's our one thing. That's the next frontier, because you go into every bar in Vancouver and it'll be 100% craft.
Yeah.
Beer.
Craft beer.
And then you'll go and their wine list will probably be
predominantly BC.
Yeah.
BC, and then you'll look at the spirits and it could easily, in a lot of them, it's 100% international.
I think it's always that one spirit that didn't get explained quite right, or they tasted like it's like Isla whiskey. When people say I hate Scotch, well, chances are some douche at a party when you were 19 years old poured you Ardbeg or Goodell, and of course you hate whiskey because that's what you think everything tastes like.
Yeah.
And it's a double-edged sword. I always feel like I have always been a big proponent of everything has its place everywhere. Like Hendrix, when it first came out, people were like, well, this is not gin. This is not beefy. This is not Tanqueray.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Hendrix got a lot of flack, and now it's one of the biggest gin brands in the world.
Yeah.
Because it was against the status quo. You
Yes.
have Gordon's beefy, the Tanqueray on the back bar, then you get Hendrix. It's very, very different.
Yeah.
And that's why I look at it as you guys champion Hendrix, and it's not gin forward, it's not juniper forward.
Exactly.
So, why would you not champion anything else? Everything has its place for a different reason. If you want to say that you're going to grab a bowl of wallflower and change that up with beefy drink well, then you're missing the point.
Well, that's why I like it when you do those tastings, because you look at each individual product and literally you point out what's interesting and unique and tasty about each product, and it's all individual.
And each product has to be that way. It's BC. It's like every wine. You're not going to get a Gewürztraminer that tastes like it's from Germany. It's just the way it is. But everybody seems to accept that. That's fine. But the spirits are still. I think we're getting there now. I think we're finally getting there.
Yeah. So I think that's slowly changing.
Yeah.
And the support of more and more bars and restaurants. We also tell our customers, if you go in somewhere and you want to see wallflower, or
so you do a guerrilla tactic.
Yeah. Just ask. And we've had customers come back and say, "Oh, I did ask, but they were so condescending."
I'm going to tell you a story off record about that. I used to do that. We're looking good. So I think I got the angle that I wanted. So I'm going to do a post thing on this one. Yeah,
yes.
I'm going to do a post thing on this one. I appreciate sitting down with you guys. I know that it's busy. BC Distillers are always crazy, and I appreciate the fact that you guys sit down, and I thank you immensely for your support.
We appreciate what you're doing.
Oh no,
seriously.
It's literally, I just on camera I get drunk. Really, it's not doing much. But no, I appreciate it immensely, because I want the general public to understand what they want. Go into liquor stores and ask for it. Mm-hmm. But I think we're good. That's going to be a good episode.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.